Good morning, cabinet joint family. Brian from the cabinet joint here to shoot yet another video. And what we're talking about today is inset versus overlay and what the options are. We get a lot of questions on this because we use this term kind of throughout our website, full overlay, partial overlay, inset. And unless you're a cabinet head and been doing this for a while, some people are confused by that and what the differences are and what some of the design permutations are when you choose one or the other. So today we're going to walk through 4 different versions of cabinetry, and I'll talk about a 5th, but we're going to talk about flush inset, which is what I have here on the right, beaded inset, which I have here on my left. They're just variations of an inset theme, and then partial overlay and full overlay where the door sits on the front frame. And I have an ultra full overlay I'm going to briefly talk about. But let's get started with talking about the insets, because right now this is representing about 50% of our sales volume here at Cabinet Joint. The overlays are getting less popular and everybody wants inset. So before I even get into inset and overlay, these are options that are only available on a face frame style cabinet. So let's have a real quick discussion about face frame cabinets versus frameless. Here at Cabinet Joint, we have a face frame style cabinet, which I have here. We call it Advantage. And then our sister website called Access by Cabinet Joint sells a frameless box. And what a frameless box is there's no wooden front frame around the cabinet face. Okay, this is a traditional way of building cabinets. Frameless cabinets, or known as 32 millimeter, came about 30, 40, 50 years ago after World War II, and it's basically panelized construction where you have a top piece of plywood, 3/4 thick, a left and right side, and a bottom, and wherever the door sits, it lays on a banded, edge-banded, color-matched front edge, but there is no front frame, so the door sits right on the leading edges of the cabinet box. That's why they call it frameless. There's no front frame. So that kind of style, frameless, limits you. You can only get what I would call full overlay. The door is covering all but about 1/8 of an inch of that 3/4 thick banded panel. So you get this ultra full, clean, modern look. When you talk about frameless or face frame style cabinets like I have here, you have options. We can deviate or vary how much the door hangs over the front frame, leaving some front frame exposed, or put the door fully inside the frame where the frame and the door are flush, which is what you're seeing here. So now that we kind of have that as a background, let me talk about our inset options. Again, this is flush inset. This is also flush, but this one does not have a bead, okay? So the door and the frame are sitting on the same plane. They both have a square edge, and there's a 3/32 gap running around my door. If there was a drawer front above it, same thing, 3/32 inch gap. And it doesn't really matter what door I have in the center, the edge profile here and the front frame are going to be the same, just square edges coming together with that gap. Very clean, very linear look. Where you get limitations with this is we can't do like, we can, but you don't want to do it. I would really appreciate if you don't ask for it. You really don't want to do a slab where it's one big block of wood. Pretend this walnut door didn't have a floating center panel allowing it to expand and contract. This allows this door to not grow in size as it sits in this opening. We get customers who want to take this flush inset look and make it really ultra modern by doing a one-piece block of solid wood glued up. So picture this as a giant piece of walnut with no floating center panel. That panel is going to want to expand a lot in that opening, like as much as 1/4 of an inch on a 12-inch panel if you have the windows open and no air conditioning on. That door is going to then have a chance of binding in the opening. So you're kind of limited. You're going to not want to do a solid block of wood, what we call a flush slab door. You're going to want to do a 5-piece door of some variation, so it limits you to that, okay? If you choose to go with a flush slab door, bear in mind there's no tolerances or no warranty against warpage or binding in that opening. So anyway, that's one of the limitations with inset that you're going to find. What's great about it is you have so much variation on the left and right side. If I'm going against the wall, I don't have to worry about the door binding like you would with frameless, where I have to have a filler, or full overlay, which I'll show you in a minute, where I have to have an extended style or a filler. So it's just easy to design with when you have inset. So that's flush inset. Again, flush, no profiles, just a nice clean look. Now we're going to move over to beaded inset. And you can see this is the same as the flush inset, except I've got this delicate 1/4 inch bead running around the openings, okay? If I had a mid-rail dividing these two doors, that opening would be beaded, that opening would be beaded, and you can see my drawer front is beaded. So it creates an aesthetic, very popular about 5 years ago. We're selling much more of the flush inset versus the beaded now, but still very pretty and very simple, okay? It has the same limitations and same gotcha moments as the flush inset. You don't want to do slabs or any of that. It's still an inset door. Still have the 6-way adjustable hinge on the inside where we can deviate the gaps going up and down, left and right, in and out. It's got all the same stuff the flush inset has. All you're getting is that delicate bead. Okay, so that's inset. Okay, I mentioned hardware a minute ago with the adjustability. I wanted to show you some of the things you have to think about with inset if you choose to buy it from us. There is a reason why, if you went to your custom inset cabinet manufacturer, there's a reason why they charge a premium of 30% or more to go from an overlay cabinet to an inset cabinet. People often ask us, why is it so much more? It's not so much the cabinet box. The cabinet box doesn't change. The doors don't really change. What changes is the fitting of the doors. Manufacturer has to make sure that 3/32 gap is maintained, so doors have to be bump sanded and squared in an opening. Every door is a matched set with its opening. But the real expense comes in the extra hardware. So when you order inset from us, instead of paying a 30% premium, it's going to be more like a 5% premium over overlay cabinets, which is a tremendous deal. And I really feel like that's why we're selling so much of it, is people are able to get an inset box, which would cost you a lot of money elsewhere, and it's not a whole lot more if you're willing to do it yourself or have your contractor build it. The reason being, the extra expense, that 30% extra, is assembly expense if you were to buy it from a cabinet shop, but you're the assembler. So really all you're paying for is the extra hardware expense. These hinges are a little more money, and there's some extra hardware on the drawer boxes where there's some brackets that carry the drawer box because the drawer glide is now sitting back inside the cabinet. That extra hardware installation and then fussing with the doors with the adjustability to get your gaps, it's just fussy work. You have to put these little brackets on to hold your doors as a stopper so they don't go all the way into the cabinet. You just have some extra hardwaring and fitting that makes it fussy work, but you're saving a lot of money as a result. The point I want to make with this hardware is if you choose to go with inset from us, you really want to install the brackets that hold these doors on. I'll pop one off real quick, maybe you can see it. There's a bracket here that mounts to the back of the front frame. You really want to install those and the drawer box carrier brackets that sit behind the front frame. You want to install those before you build the box. And so we have a video, we'll reference it below in this video, but there's a video you will want to watch that tells you how to put that hardware on before you assemble your box, okay? So just understand some of those hardware permutations with the inset and what it's going to mean for you as an assembler, and also understand that's why this is such a tremendous value, is because you're paying a very small premium for inset to get a really expensive look. This is very, very high-end stuff you're looking at here. You won't go to Lowe's or Home Depot and find inset very often, if at all. Okay, now let's transition over to half-inch overlay. We'll show you the differences between inset cabinetry and overlay cabinetry. Okay, so now what I have before me is a mocked up front frame with doors exhibiting half-inch, or what we call partial or traditional overlay. This is the overlay we would have seen in our grandparents' cabinets back in the 70s and 80s. Still people who want that look, and really what you're getting is the doors leave a 1-inch reveal. So if my front frame is 1.5 inches, the door and drawer front are sitting a 1/2 inch over on all 4 sides, okay? So it's very easy to design with. You don't have a lot of clearance issues with doors hitting walls, that kind of thing. It's super easy to adjust doors, and you don't even have to have them perfectly lined up and you won't even see it. It hides a multitude of evils. It's also less expensive because the doors are smaller, and what you're paying for with cabinetry is how much square footage of actual material, cherry, maple, whatever, that you're paying for. The doors are all about 1 inch smaller in size than if this was a full overlay box, which I'll show you in a minute. So therefore you're paying a little less. So some people still want this traditional overlay look. Nothing wrong with it. There's really no gotchas that I can give you on this. Just remember you have 1 inch all the way around and 1 inch between your doors. And when you mount your doors on your cabinets, they'll all look nice and consistent. Very traditional, simple look. Nothing wrong with it at all. You're just not going to see it sold a lot. It's kind of passé. Okay, now let's talk about full overlay. This is what we call 1.25 inch or full overlay. It's our most popular overlay cabinet. And when we say 1.25 inch, again, keeping in mind, except for extended styles like this one, our framing is all 1.5 inches. 1.25 inch means the door or drawer front is laying over, overlay, laying over the front frame by 1.25 inches. Okay, primarily we're talking about the hinge side, the edges of the door, but pretty much everywhere. And that leaves a reveal of a 1/2 inch above, a 1/2 inch between, and a 1/4 inch on the left and right side. So picture this door is laying over the opening by 1.25 inches, which means there's a 1/4 inch reveal left. The drawer front's doing the same thing. Those two stacked tolerances of a 1/4 inch remaining gives me a 1/2 inch between, a 1/2 inch above, 1/4 inch on the left, 1/4 inch on the right, and flush on the bottom. And that's an important thing to note for wall cabinets and base cabinets in our particular line. I can't say this is always the case with full overlay, but our doors are sized to run the door right to the bottom of the front frame for base cabinets and wall cabinets. If you need to deviate that for some reason, let's say you're doing a light rail that wraps around the front frame on a wall cabinet, we can deviate the door size to pull the bottom of the door up. Leaving the top where it is just makes the door shorter and allows you to wrap the bottom in a light rail. These are all things you can talk about with your cabinet coach. Suffice it to say, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. If I'm butting two cabinets together, which you're going to have in a kitchen run, obviously, and I have another cabinet coming in here, it's going to be a 1/4 inch here, and the other door on the other cabinet is a 1/4 inch, which creates a 1/2 inch between to match my 1/2 inch and my 1/2 inch. So hopefully that's all making sense, but that's the deal with full overlay. There are more considerations in full overlay with things like clearances against walls or deeper cabinets. While these hinges are 6-way adjustable, up, down, left, right, in, out, one limitation with the overlay hinges is they're not zero clearance. So what zero clearance means is as you open something, the door actually moves in, like your refrigerator or appliance doors often do this. The doors actually supinate in a little bit, which means they're not growing to the outside. As I open the door, the outside corner is not going beyond its closed edge. That's a zero clearance hinge. These hinges, overlay hinges, are not zero clearance. So as I open this door, that corner starts to move over a little bit until it gets to the 90-degree point. Why that's important is if we make this reveal shorter than this or narrower, say we did an 1/8 inch reveal and I have another cabinet against it, when I open this door and this door, the corners are going to collide. If I run this cabinet up against the wall and I only have an 1/8 of an inch and I open this door, that door is going to rub a refrigerator cabinet or your sheetrock or whatever. So using extended styles, which we have, this is an extended style here, we just extend the front frame. It's not a filler strip, it's integrated into the cabinet. We can make these any size you want. So if you want to extend this by a 1/2 inch to go against a deep refrigerator cabinet, your cabinet coach can help with that. You just have to think through clearances and trim a little more. Let's give you another example. This is a bathroom cabinet. I have a sheetrock wall here and I have a doorway here and I'm opening the door and there's trim on my casing molding going around my doorway. If this does not have a filler strip and I open this drawer front's going to hit the knob on my door or maybe the casing on the door frame. So you have to move the cabinet over using an extended style to allow a full overlay to clear. Becomes an issue in blind corner cabinets or where cabinets join in a corner. Got to think about filler strips or extended styles with full overlay. So it's a little more fussy to design with an inset or partial overlay. So bear that in mind. Let your cabinet coach help guide you. Use our design service so you don't have any oops moments, because you can't shorten you can shorten a cabinet a little bit, but if this is cabinet's built too big, we have to sell you a new cabinet to make it smaller and have it fit. So you don't want to make a mistake where you didn't leave clearance. It means a whole new box and that gets expensive. So anyway, that's your full overlay version. I told you in the beginning of this video I would touch on ultra full overlay. We don't like to talk about it. It's a dirty word around here. We can sell you 1 3/8 overlay. It is an option. 1 3/8 overlay is, again, 1.5 inch front frame. Door lays over the front frame by 1 3/8, leaving that 1/8 of an inch reveal on the outside. Now we're into peril. The salesperson will probably try to talk you out of it because you're going to get into situations where things are going to rub and not clear. You can't do sharp edges like this. You have to do heavily profiled edges to avoid clearances. We'll guide you through it as best we can, but you have to understand that when we sell you the full 1 3/8 overlay, the burden of responsibility falls on the customer to make sure things aren't going to bind, and if they do, we can sell you an 1 1/4 inch overlay door to fix something or whatever. We can help you with that. But we can't prevent clearance issues with 1 3/8 overlay. The zero clearance or non-zero clearance hinge just creates too many issues for us to overcome in design all the time. Okay, so bear that in mind. And you might be asking, well, why do people want full, ultra full 1 3/8 overlay? They're trying to make a frame box like this look like a frameless box. That's super modern, really big overlay. All you see is door and hardly any cabinet. They're trying to do that look with a frame box. It's not meant for that. If you want that zero clearance look, or the full overlay look, go to our access line and do a frameless box, or suffice it to say, you're going to get stuck with this pretty full overlay, but still a bit of front frame showing. That's your best option if you're going to go overlay. So hopefully that helps. I mentioned on this we don't like to do slabs in an inset, like a big one-piece slab solid wood, because of the expansion characteristics. You're safer with overlay, or certainly the partial overlay I showed you earlier. That door can expand and contract all at once. You're not going to get a real binding issue, especially with that partial overlay. So all these little things you need to consider while you're designing, because in the end you have to live with this kitchen for years, and we don't want to have you being angry at us because we didn't give you all the information and the differences between the insets and the different overlays. Should you have any questions, always talk to your cabinet coach. They can send you pictures of kitchens that we have that are done these different ways, so you can kind of wrap your mind around what the finished installation looks like. We can sell you sample frames and doors that you can put them on and see in real life how they look. Whatever you need to make a wise decision so you're happy with your kitchen, we're happy to help you with. So if you have any questions, give us a call. As always, 888-211-6482, and we appreciate you sticking with this rather long video to explain a common question.